fire up a few things here. Start. All right. I'm gonna dip down and get some work done. I want to try to get my dialogue choices to pop up. If I can get that to work correctly, then we'll swing back around. Feel free to vibe along. We're doing just some body doubling, co-work, however you want to look at it. Have a good time. My favorite kind of party. I'm gonna mess with my levels here a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it's been a couple of days. I've done quite a bit of work, actually. Don't want whatever I just happened to happen. I've added in a couple of cutscenes, so we have like a little bit of a cutscene system now. So when you go to play the game, you get the test cinematic. And since this camera object is spawned into space in some stupid way, I'm gonna have to move it. We now have the ability to click through and have... Oh shit! Being flooded. I love it. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should get some altars and subscribe to myself. So my cutscene system is currently a little broken because I have this in here. I'm going to bypass it for now. We're just going to go straight to here. So I can show you what I managed to do. So we've got I can open up with any kind of establishing shot that I want. This is literally just 210 frames of animation here. Still breaking. Internet file? Oh, I see what it is. A doofus who doesn't even remember how I built all this. So cool. Oh yes, we are well beyond Miro. I'll show you some of the other stuff I've done here too. If I can, I can't even show you what I'm proud of right now. But I've got a script for a scene. So this is just a little bit of nonsense that I typed up that gives me. I'm a little curious as to why it's restarting. Is that on a timer, or is it because I try to click through here? I click through here, it restarts the script. That's interesting to me. But it's a scene that I did just in a Google sheet. Please don't judge my writing. It's really just a way for me to test all the things that I want to be able to test here, which is to have a dialogue choice, have... Oh, I think I know what it is. I think it's the go-to. The go-to is sending me back to... Because this is looking for all the go-to data, and it just breaks and doesn't... how to fix that. To go-to. So, the overview. I'll give a quick overview while I'm kind of going through this. I have my content with all of my data here. The data is the BPs. I created these in the first stream, I think, or in the first Unreal stream, just to go through and have sort of ways to house all of the different bits of information I think we're going to want. And I did an entirely overly complicated series of notes here. In the primary script, this is underscore HUD GM. This is my game master. Well, a lot of the game decisions will be made in this blueprint, which is just sort of think of it as like a script that is sequestered to itself, self-contained. There we go. We have our entities and components and our systems. These are kind of going to be the backbone of this. So essentially, it's different. All our components are the basic building blocks of everything, and then we've got our entities, which are sort of containers for these components. So our characters will have skill sheets, derived stats, inventories, narrative controls, geometry, mech layout. And then our environmental challenge entity, which is really these are the only two entities I can currently think of that would require any kind of like specific entities be created as our characters and environments. I think everything else is going to be data housed within one of these two things. Maybe quest entities. I'll come back to that. The environmental challenge entities are basically the same as the character entities, just without the mech loadout. So, an environmental entity being like a chest that you find in the world that's locked, or a door that you find that needs to be picked, or a weak spot in a wall that you can use your mech to burst through, like the Kool-Aid Man. And then the systems are essentially anything that interfaces between two different kinds of entities that bounces off of each other. So again, our combat system is taking two character entities and bouncing their stats off of each other. Again, there might come a time where we want to compare narrative conditionals, but it's not right now. Same with the social challenge, but we're less worried about derived stats like health, speed, capacity, all that stuff. We're more worried about the narrative conditionals that would be sort of reflected across each other. And then the mech customization system is self-contained. It's the character entity off of itself. It's accessing all of its everything but its mech loadout, which I need to add. That one I added late. All of my notes are actually incorrect. That's fun. The environmental traversal challenge, that'll be, again, that's where I was thinking of like breaking through a wall, or the lockpicking system of opening a chest, or environmental breaching system was actually where I was thinking of breaking into a wall. The traversal system is more of like this hallway is collapsed, and it's more of like it's kind of just a way for me to spitball what one of the challenges would look like from like Pillars of Eternity or something, where it goes into full text-based mode and just shows you you enter a cave and there's a pool. Do you dive into the pool or whatever? It's just a way for me to sort of like considering what my system would look like with the current entity layout. And then I started working on the toolkit. So this was, yes, exactly, difficult terrain type, which brings up another thing I do want to talk about, terrain types for the maps too. Yes, or yeah, the rope, grappling hook. Do you have a ladder? That'd be kind of convenient. You're in a mech, so none of that really counts. But like, how do you solve that problem narratively? Yeah, based on what you have in your inventory, which is why your inventory is tagged here. The toolkit, again, I think I rambled about this on the first day, but this is kind of what I'm looking for in my ability to work on this game, essentially. It's an editor that I'm building within Unreal, more or less. That is our, I want to be able to build a map in a day. I want it to be self-contained blueprints so I can just kind of drag and drop them into the overworld. And in this case, if I had, this piece of geometry here that I wanted to be able to interact with, I want to have something that I can basically pull out of here and just drop onto it and have it slot in within the details panel here that I can access. Every mech should have a handy ladder. That's true. Yeah, actually, how do they get in and out of them? That's a good point. And being able to maybe utilize something like that. Maybe because you have a specific type of leg, you're going to be able to do something in the field that a mech that didn't have that type of leg would be able to. And this would be like classification, not necessarily specific. Like, since your legs bend backwards, you're able to, I don't know, whatever. Versus, something that's more of like a broad generalization rather than, since you have these specific Legomatic 6000, you can do this because you're an idiot and didn't get the 6000 model, you went with the 5000 model, you can't do jack, etc. Or if you have like, my mass capacity is high enough that I can hold this other mech up, whatever. Yeah. Cantilevered legs that go, or what are they called? Not cantilevered. Whatever, like whatever legs Garrus has. For the toolkit, yeah, being able to build a map in a day, have it be self-contained, I can drag and drop, be able to edit the content offline. This fits into the sort of data-driven obsession that I have with all this. Be able to reuse camera tracks. If I wanted to be able to take this this secondary cinematic that I have here, that's literally just like another view of this conversation that's happening, and I wanted to be able to use this incredibly boring camera motion on another shot. I want to be able to drag this in and just like repoint it, and that is going to be that's going to require a little bit of development, I think. You have the jumpy boy legs on a big old tank body. Yeah, that's true. That's where the sort of like, that's where the mass capacity and movement sort of trade-off happens. So if you want to be able to move as a tank, if you want to be a tank, you're going to not be able to move as much, and movement's going to affect your ability to do some of these narrative challenges. I have no idea how long the delay is here. Let's see, 22. That's not too bad. Okay. Anyway, being able to reuse camera tracks, being able to call cinematic components by name in the script, which I can do. I was so proud of this yesterday. This opens up so much of what I'm able to do here. But if you think of each of these sort of like rows as a passage of the script, this is all the data that's housed within it. This is the go-to label. So when the go-to data is what is registered at the end of a line, so it'll bring up this passage and it'll look and see if there's anything in this go-to data. And since there is dialogue breakdown, it'll loop back to the label of dialogue breakdown, and it'll give you, this is our go-to 10, etc. But being able to house script data, or being able to house cinematic data here within the script of saying, I want this sequence to load versus this sequence. I probably should have named them differently, but these are two separate sequences. So when we do get to the point where I'm able to actually show you this, sets the current index and then breaks, and then and then it does nothing. Okay, I need to look at this because this is what's causing us to loop back to nothing. For now, I'm going to turn this off. I'm just going to bypass it. so that you can actually see that we do have different cuts. Man, I think it's cool that you clicked on the part of the description that talks about them being branching dialogue points, etc. This is what you will have clicked on when there are choices. But when we get to this part, now I can load a different cut, and it's a different angle of the same cutscene, and I can do this as many times as I need to, and have exactly the kind of dialogue system I'm looking for. This is very much in like OG BioWare conversation system. I feel it's very linear, which I don't like. This is something that I was lamenting the other day. Is like I'm not 100% happy with the narrative design tools that I have on hand, so I'm kind of making this up, which is why I've taken to Excel to write a friggin' scene script, but less fun. But I can add cinematics, so that's really all I wanted to be able to do with the toolkit in regards to that. Have material-driven environments. So this is, I should imagine like a set of Legos that you have, and they're all different colors, but you can put them all together and build the geometry of any level that you want. I want the engine to put the skin on it that would allow it to look different than, say, if you were in a different spot. Mainly because I want to reuse some of these maps. I'm not 100% on board with custom building 120 maps. I think I'd like to make 30 and just use them 4 times a piece. Not to say that I'm going to be using that many, but that's just my take on this. So essentially the material-driven environments would be when you have this. Fuck it, I'll do it in Excel. Man, that's going to be most of this. I'm not even kidding. That's going to be literally most of this project is fuck it, I'll do it in Excel. And that's really because I'm most comfortable there. You know my background, so like having something that I'm very quick with to be able to just problem solve on the fly is great. And Unreal has a really robust data table system, so I just imported this as a CSV file. So I literally wrote this out in Google Sheets, downloaded the CSV, dragged it into Unreal, and went, oh, okay, I know what you want to do. I need to rebuild the sort of template of the table in a different thing called a struct, and once I do that, then it pulls it in perfectly. So having material-driven environments is I'll have a lot of the pieces that I'll model here in Blender. When I bring them into Unreal, I'll apply materials to them. That material will say, okay, I'm pointing up, and I'm this type of material. I'm a grasslands material, so I'll spawn grass. I won't have to. That won't be something that I'll need to model. It will be, that won't be something that I'll need to paint on. Like, seriously, it'll be systemic for the most part. And this is for top-down maps. This isn't going to be anything super crazy. Modular environment BPs with selectable static mesh. That's kind of what I was talking about just now, of like bringing in pieces. But what I would do is, theoretically, I would have the ability to go in here and say, okay, this is an actor, and I call this an actor. But I have other static meshes that I can apply to this if I want to. So say this is my player character, I would apply the player character static mesh, which is built in its own blueprint. Or if this is a specific companion, I would go in and find, Garrus's model, and I would apply it here. Just being able to swap that in and out on the fly instead of having 120,000 static meshes that I would need to keep track of, it would be like a couple of blueprints. And those blueprints I can instance and spawn around and make up a scene with that. Again, that requires an environment geometry class, and that'll be something that I'll classify once we get done to breaking this down. This is my question of, can I use USD for this? I don't think I can. USD is kind of the more of an industry standard file format. If you think about it like Photoshop for scene data, so you'd have like, this is our geometry layer, this is our material layer, this is our blended rigged layer, this is our animation layer, and all of that data is housed within one universal scene description, which may or may not be what that stands for. Utilize sublevel streaming. I think I figured that out. I am doing it here, so this is the sequence test level. Everything you're seeing on the screen is coming from that level. Nothing else is tied to the persistent level. So I can load in a separate sequence test level that would have a different environment, different characters, different camera, all that fun jazz. These can be loaded in the background. So this will be something that I'll decide later when it comes to testing and optimizing, like the final optimization. I'm going to be optimizing all the way through this, but the final optimization will be, do I want to have one big load when the game loads up? and then everything else is seamless, or do I want to chunk it out and have it be like a normal, like smaller loads spread throughout the scene? Man, that's gonna sound weird out of context. And then some way to easily, in the toolkit, be able to visualize the win-lose conditions. So have maybe flags on on characters that would say if this person dies, map over. Which, yeah, I want to make them pretty global flags that can be attached to the blueprints, and then have those be something that the narrative can hook into later. I can pull out a cutscene and say, "Remember when we killed that guy? Because, you know, the win condition from that one map set that to true, and it's been true ever since." So this is kind of the map maker toolkit. And then when it comes to our actual views of what this whole screen will look like, we'll have our sort of Unreal workstation here, but I want to have a couple of windows that, you know, I can launch the map maker from here, or I can open the character sheet component to make changes. Because balancing is going to be a huge thing, and trying to figure out point values and things like that. And then for the cinematic function, and that's just for the map functions, to be able to say, I want this character here to have 15 points in might and be just a big bashy boy and be really hard to beat unless you are, you know, whatever, trying to force some sort of like tactics into it using placement and type of characters in those places, and being able to drag and drop a character into the map and just have them, you know, pop up, and then I can change the static mesh and I can change their point values and I can etc. And then have the cinematic functions of being able to browse all of our cinematic components, like the camera controls I was talking about before, or the camera moves. I want to be able to have a camera move that pops in and you know, slides 5 feet to the right or whatever, and do that 100,000 times, but be able to call that in the script. I'm so happy with that. I can't even tell you. I was really worried that this was going to be something that I was going to have to go in and hard code, and that I can't even fit my brain around how I would do that. So being able to keep cinematic components data driven is awesome. I want to be able to open the script data table from here, so load a script and be able to call it in world, and then have the open my narrative handler blueprint, which is the cutscene here. So I can rename that open cutscene handler. And the sequences. So this is, I broke down a little bit of where I wanted the sequences to go. This is the combat sequences. So when you attack somebody in front mission and the camera gets way down on them and you can see the two mechs and they're fighting. Since I'm doing it as a spawnable cutscene, or as a spawnable sequence, I can do a lot more with it than they're able to do, which is stellar. And then it would be the action and then the reaction, and those would be dynamically possessed by whichever characters are in whichever position. So combatant A and then combatant B would be set by whomever they are. The camera, leaving space for the camera to blend. So we would have this sort of like top-down gameplay camera. And then, you know, when you set something to attack and then you go into camera view, which I'm going to simulate this. It'll, you know, having some sort of blend between the two cameras, so it's not just snapping from one view to another. Be able to say, okay, we're moving down from the top level into this close-up level. And then fade the characters into world space at scale. So I don't know if you've noticed, but the mechs that are on the gameplay screen in front mission are not the size that they are in the cutscenes. They are entirely different sizes, which makes sense because you're looking at something from really high up. You want to be able to see it, make out what it is and who it is. So having those geometries fade out at one scale and fade in at the other scale, but have the camera move be seamless, just to sort of like give it a more immersive feel. That's something that I'm thinking about. And then for the cutscene sequences, having all of the cameras and units be dynamic and all of the script selections be dynamic, but then be able to choose hard-coded camera angles from our dynamic, or from our component system. Swap this over. And then have also sound and VFX. These are really kind of the tracks that we'll need to have for each of the sequences. And then our scene flow in camera possesses so camera would possess our bottleneck shot, which would be at the beginning of the scene. It would be the establishing shot, and then a couple of dialogue shots, and then the player would be presented with a choice, and that choice might spawn a different camera angle. But then when the narrative rejoins, it would come back into this bottleneck shot to show again, and I would be able to control the flow of the conversations, and also therefore the camera. And then the player is presented with dialogue, makes a choice. The corresponding shot is read and loaded from the script, which is this cinematic here, and then we just rinse and repeat. Goes back to the bottleneck shot, goes back through, loops through. And then I can do special one-off sequences for big things that are happening that break our mold, which I want to do pretty frequently. I don't want everything to feel super rote all the time. Using events when possible. Events are things that I can add on basically just as like a keyframe that would trigger one of our blueprint events or a VFX or a new camera angle or whatever. We can do, those can be pretty powerful. I know they exist, so I want to make sure that I'm knowing that I can utilize them for things. And then script holding the flow data in the form of sequences that load in based on dialogue choices. So that's this. I'm super proud of this. I'm going to keep bringing it up. I'm going to bring it up in conversation. We're going to be like, wow, are you vegan? No, you made a cinematic that you plugged into your script. Anyway. So yeah, so having the cutscenes currently work. I want to get a window to pop up here to have the choices. So this would be 3 entries. That's my current task. I messed with this last night. Like the spirit took me a little bit. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm gonna figure this out. Well, I say I'm feeling pretty good about it, but it's broken currently. So there's that. Oh, I just talked so much. I'm gonna go get something to drink. Got 2 minutes left on my break. I might make a coffee. I don't know. See what happens. I do not actually have coffee, so I got a Kirkland sparkling water. I have instant coffee that I can make later, if I really need it. One thing that I do think is kind of cool is that the traversal challenges. Oh yeah, I love it. Kirkling water. It's lemon flavored. One thing I do like about the traversal challenge system is that I would be able to do custom cutscenes for it. So again, in Pillars, they just do hand drawings or like sketches on a scroll. But I would be able to do I'd be able to do really custom cutscene content for it, and I think that's dope. I think that'll be really fun. But then again, this will be the backbone of it, bouncing these guys off of each other. Chock full of high quality Kirkles. Kirkles be Kirklin'. Oh, and then here for the one thing I didn't cover, and I've got 30 seconds, and then I'll get back into the figuring out the cutscene flow. The sub-levels, this is kind of what I have here, where this will be the maps, essentially, that it'll load in specifically. So the overworld map will be its own map that'll load in and have its own geometry and its own flow, or whatever map I'm currently designing will be open here that I can test. The map make and viewport, that'll be the geometry that'll be in place, that'll be testing, that'll be flow on things, content browser, this will be all of my blueprints and static mesh, and then my map functions, being able to package it all down as a level blueprint and link it to the overworld in whatever way, or have whatever sort of the narrative flag be. And then my cinematic functions, again, this is all the same stuff. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm like 60% prepared. There's a lot of stuff that I need to flesh out in here, but feeling all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to sort this out. Some way to see if this is spawning correctly. Not this one. I know there's some way to do this. Part of my whole streaming thing here is going to be doing research on the fly. Okay. Just a button. Add. Choice text, bro. Yeah, no, 100%. That's how everybody's gonna talk, actually. Don't you love a sci-fi setting where everybody just talks like they grew up in Santa Monica? Spawning them, but it's not. Controller. Bro, did you see the actuators on that, bro? He's like, he just went, blah, and just like lifted that guy up over his head and went, blah. It was great. Well, I'm kind of not even mad at that. That'd be fun. Okay, I might need, maybe I need to wrap this in a canvas paper. Is that what your deal is? Oh, did I replace it? No. Crap. Say 200. Then we'll drop the text. On there. There's some of the mechanics having that vibe. I could see that. Yeah, I think when you go to like you go into the mechanic shop, there's somebody who's really just all about, I've been working on actuators my whole life, man, but like sometimes I like to go out and, surf in the methane fields, just feel the gas moving under my board. I could see that. I'd like that guy. If that guy existed in any game I'd ever played, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to that guy. Voice tech. God, trying to type on stream is horrifying. And then choice button. Add a new function called option data. I guess if you weren't here for this, the BPI, the blueprint interface, is a way to get all of these disparate blueprints to work together, or to speak together. So you'll see functions like, here it is, advanced scene data, which you'll recognize from here, and advanced scene data. What this is doing is it's taking the, so it's creating the cutscene. This is the Game Master script. When I click the button of test cinematic, and I'll be changing all this up in the future, this will be way more complicated, but for now, clicking on this opens the cutscene HUD, which is the where you'd see the text being printed. It sets that as the HUD cutscene, which is just a way for me to call this later and like poke at it. It'll add it to the viewport, and then it'll remove this scene from the parent. I see what the issue is. I think that might be a big problem. It's not calculating anything correctly because there's nothing. It's removed it from the parent. It's no longer being activated. What I do want to do is set opacity. Oh, Sam, my boy. Alright. Let's see. Should still work. Let's put opacity. Yeah, alright. That should be calculating itself correctly. But what it'll do is it will send... Alright. Let me get bigger on this real quick. So when on the event construct, which is... This has been loaded in by the game. The game master has been loaded up. This is the first thing that the game is going to do. All of the calculation relies on this. Single point of failure. So, fantastic. It loads the scene loader. The scene loader is a custom event here, which takes my script, loops through it, and says, for every line in the script, I want you to move the script data over into our instruction data. I'm separating this so that I can build this out later to hold more data than what's just coming out of the script, but that's, for now, all I needed was this. And it will take this row of information, and it will add it in, oh, for God's sake, it'll add it into an array called instruction set. So this is just our instructions for the game. And then it will set our current index within that instruction set to 0. So that's the scene loader, and then it'll play the little fade in animation, which, you know, when you go to play it ever so gently fade. You see the fucking world underneath it. That's a different thing. So it'll do that. So now that it has this instruction set, I'm able to go through, and when I click on the test cutscene, or the test sequencer, it opens up the cutscene HUD, creates that, adds it to the viewport, sets the render opacity of this panel, of the Mech Boy panel, to 0, so I can see through it, and then it sends a thing called advanced scene data, which holds the instruction set and the current index to the cutscene. So that's what this is pulling through. So this is the BPI, is our way of interfacing between blueprints. That's really all it is. It's just a way to send packets of information between separate files, essentially. So every time it gets this call, it's going to print a string that says advancing, just so I can see that it's actually happening. But then it'll say, okay, if the speaker is choice, that speaker is choice. Man, now I can't not think of it. Thanks, dude. Get me like a server brainworm. If it is not choice, so if choice does not equal the speaker, it will then check to see if the cinematic in here is if the length of this string is longer than 5. I think it accounts for none, so I just gave it a leeway. If it is greater than 5, which means there is something in there, it will create a sequencer player. It will pull that sequencer from the instruction set. It'll pull whatever this information is, and it will load it in. So it'll give me it'll load it in an autoplay, and then it'll give me a 1-second delay before it fades the window in. So you can kind of see the camera motion and get a feel for it. We can make this dynamic later. We can make it only happen on the first, on the establishing shot if we want to, but for now, that's all we're particularly worried about. And then it will go in, and right now I don't have them separated as separate boxes. It's just the one text box, but I will separate them out later. But the speaker and the line that they are speaking are appended together into a single string with a colon separating them, and then it sets the text of text block 0, which is our primary text block here, to be the text of speaker and the line combined with it. That's all it's doing. This is entirely reusable too, so it happens every time that this one single action is called. It's just making decisions to push it through. If it is a choice, what it should be doing, and currently isn't, it will create a choice box. Maybe this is a problem too. It will set that choice, the choice panel to a variable that we can poke at later, which we'll probably have to, and then we'll add it to the viewport. when this is added. I'm not pushing any choice data to it. Found it. I knew there was something. That might be. Yeah, there we go. I've got choices. They're way too big and they're off screen. Why are you like this? Our choice box is... Choice box should only be the 400... Set it to 400, but that's not the issue. Ordered by 200. I think it might be the screen doesn't have... Does? It's a 1080p. We'll set it center screen right now. So I can actually see what it's doing. I'm gonna add a taskbar 2 to the output later. Okay. None of these buttons do anything yet, and there are too many of them. Right? Or do I have 4 options now? What did I do? Roy, what did you do? Let's see. Oh no, there are 4. There are 4 options. I'm gonna make this way smaller. I'm gonna say... It used to be this big. I need to make sure that there's only 4 things showing up. There are. Okay. Why did that break? Alright. They're still too far apart. What size are you now? 70, 75. Or... Button. Box. Okay. Height. 75. Ayo! Okay, there's 4 of them. Fantastic. Something with my screen size. Incorrect. Alright. So we also need to push the selection data that we created here in the BPI, the option data. That needs to be a string. No, I only need a selected. Right? The label. Let's see. Try this out. I'm thinking too many. Yeah, I am really excited. I was thinking about this a little bit last night, but I'm really excited to get into um, the actual like companion creation of this, because I want to stream it and we'll have, we'll work together on it. But having the when it comes to sort of like having input on these guys, because I want to build out some nice and memorable companions, or at least effective. So that'll be really fun, I think. Oh, I need to add my BPI to this. And then I need to make the button variable. Okay. Add on clicked. Okay. What it needs to do is it needs to add this as a child, and then it needs to pass the choice index to it. So what it'll do is it'll create it, and then it'll say, okay, I need to access, okay. I know what I'm doing. Choice text is a variable, choice button is a variable. I need to get the choice text. Set text. I set that to whatever this array element is. And then I pass option data. Nope, that's the wrong one. Optino data message. That passes as a message to the button as the array of the index of this choice index array. Get to make any changes to it. Copy, not a direct reference. I don't know if there's any memory to doubt there is. But whatever the index of this is, they are the same number and they line up together. They should be the same. Okay. Now, come through. Grant you dialog points separated by a pipe. Fantastic. Look at me go. I need to make the GM blueprint. No, what do I need to do? I need to make the level not be able to be clicked on. Actually, if I make this visible, click on it, will it do anything? Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, that's what I need to do. Why are you doing that? Why is it jumping to this now? And okay, if I go into the button and make button size itself to content. It's going to make all the buttons different widths, but I think that is okay for now. Yeah. I want to make the choice box wrap at 1600. Okay. I might just need to make my choices shorter. Break time already, damn. Okay, let's sit with this for a second. So the choice text is, if it wraps and it makes the box taller, the vertical box doesn't give a fuck about that, it just loads it in. Same amount of padding. So we have overlapping. Could be something here in the script that's okay. I see what I did. I was so focused on getting data into the script that I didn't think about how it was being presented. That's something I'm gonna need to work on in the future. Let's try to do this without doxing myself again. This is the script as it currently exists. It's literally just a Google Sheet. And in the future, if someone were to be helping me with narrative stuff, they would be receiving access to this to be able to help me out. Do I need to wink? Is that necessary? I don't think that's necessary. Anyway. Oh yes. Tell the lady, but I said hello. Boy, I hope anybody comes back and looks at this later. They look at this. They look at the chat before they hear that. Okay. Let's see. What I need to do is I need to make these make more sense. Okay. I'm pretty sure I doubled down. I'm going to go restart my break and make some coffee. I'm going to pretend I was back and working the whole time. I think it might be worth... Oh, because there's nothing in here. That's what I was looking for. Nice, and this automatically updates. I'm proud of this. Proud of a lot of this stuff. Alright. Okay. And the recording. Go to data columns. Good. Correctly. This in data script. Unreal should have detected this file. Let's see. I go over here and I see. No, if I go into the Finder, okay, re-import with new file. Go, it's open. No, should have all my changes in it. Oh, hey, okay, so the dialogicals. Dialogicals? I don't even know what that means. Anyway, so when you're presented with choices, the choices are broken out, and when you select one for a text-based game where the speaker is not voiced, do you prefer that when you click on it, it sort of gives you the why is this not rebooted? This isn't the right one. Hang on a second. I don't think this. Import new file. Oh no, it didn't. Can we not dox myself here? Good lord. Content data. Not actually, okay. I broke it. 1 second. We'll just do it straight in here. So when a dialogue is selected, and I've said, hey, I want to, this is what I'm selecting. I'm selecting, these are branching dialogue points. do you prefer that it has like a recap of like I've selected the question about branching dialogue points, or do you prefer if I selected like why are they separated by a pipe? It just goes straight into the or it just goes straight into the response. I've been curious about that because I personally I feel like if I think about it too much, if I don't think about it at all, this is fine. If I think about it even a little bit, having the like it just ruins the flow, I guess. I don't know if like my play is directly conversational like that, if that makes sense, or if it's more I prefer like making sure I'm saying the right thing with the right tone. I feel like having the player say something that's different than what I've selected has weird like can have really weird consequences when it comes to tone, but I feel like you lose a little bit of that if you don't have a chance to rewrite it. Yeah, okay. I think we're kind of on the same page there because like going like this is the choice I want. That's exactly what they've said. They're being a few words, I guess, because I'm well current. Like you know what? No, I'm not even going to say I'm limited. We can be as wordy as we want here because I don't think that it's I don't think that this is breaking anything to have this. Okay. What I do need to do is fix this. An idiot. There we go. Okay. Nope, you're broke. Big jerk. Am I gonna have to do this every time I add a row? Alright. Now we'll re-import it. How many choices you pick that summarize or try to get option? Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Like, Mass Effect 3 is horrible for that. I played through it recently and it was just hilarious. Dragon Age Inquisition has that problem a lot too, where like the tone is just way or options be sort of based on a general tone. So you know if you click the passionate response, your response is going to be a little bit more passionate. But I a million percent prefer like the Pillars of Eternity route of like here's exactly what I'm saying and here's all the stuff that's pulling off of what I'm saying and here's it's all incredibly laid out. I prefer that. Okay, so I think in that case I'm going to go ahead and fix this and re-import it. We do not have the same definitions for passionate, for sure. Alright, I'll go ahead and delete this. It should break everything for me real quick. That's cool. 3, 4, 5, 6. A, dope ass label name, and B, I didn't even catch it. What's up with me? Alright. 30 to 31, that looks correct. We'll download it. it. That should get rid of... It did. Cool. Okay. So... I needed that. There we go. It's just randomly wrapping it. Why are you doing that? Okay, I guess don't wrap at a big text. Still on. Let's see if choice. I just make it... Okay. I'm gonna force a size on it. There we go. This will probably not be how it's presented, but I really just need something in here that I can actually like click on to test all this stuff, so... Alright, so when the choice... Choice boxes... Okay, so I need to push... Okay, so I am pushing option data. I need to implement option data. Graph. Wrong graph. Okay, so what I need to do from here is push what I've selected back to the GM so I can set it as the current index and push the advance again. So I need as GM as a BPI, I think. I think I need that. I don't know. Let's see. As GM. And then this will be, I'm not calling it, input score. Correct reference. Okay. I think that's right. And then I need to push this basically down the line. Probably need it as separate thing too, but I think I could also just add it onto the advanced scene data. I think I'll do that. That might make more sense. Close this out because I keep confusing it. Advanced scene data, we'll just add a new input that currently set that way, okay? This is a 4.5 hour synthwave mix from Whitebat. This is a Nightcrawler. I think he makes these on his own. I'll drop a link in chat. I wanted something a little boppy, and that did get me actually thinking earlier of like, would there be any interest in the future? Nobody else is here; it's just us. Would there be any interest in the future if I start picking up a little bit more of a groove here, for you to hop on, and we'll find a way to let you DJ one of these sets, maybe, or one of these streams? Because I'm like, there's going to be times where all I'm doing is working, and I'm working silently, and there's like no reason for anybody to really watch. So I figured that would be a really good platform for both of us to do what we're trying to do here. The enthusiasm is pouring out of that response, so I'll let it lie. But if there's ever any, if it ever comes up, I'm sure I'll bring it up again. Probably be through Discord. We'd probably end up like, because I could add the Discord call as like a source. So I think you would do the mix on Discord and we would go through. There would be a hella delay to getting it to YouTube. I think I'm at like a 15-second delay right now just to stream this. So doing extra audio on top of it. That's just my current thinking, but yeah, but you're also really good at it, so I'm sure there's a little bit of like bike riding in there. And I'm just now realizing that I hope that doesn't come off as me trying to like ride on your coattails. It would just be a way for us to sort of both do what we have fun with in here. Let's see. Fresh my nodes. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, I see. Okay. I'm just gonna reference to self. That's okay. I don't know how to DJ. There you go. Can I just rebuild this? Data. But if there's any questions about what I am doing here, if anything, please ask. I would love to pretend I know what I'm talking about long enough to try to explain. No, it's I need cutscene that will be broken. Oh, it's not. Fantastic. What I'm doing here is with the visual scripting and all the blueprint nodes here is really kind of generally considered by some of the snootier game dev types to not be real game development because I'm not coding anything. I'm not going through and doing actual code in Visual Studio or whatever. So there's um I don't know, there's a little bit of like an elitism thing when it comes to this sort of thing, but also I am a visual guy. This I grasp this really quickly and easily, so I'm really just a lot of this stuff I'm kind of making up, but I've learned a ton just by messing around with it. So. But it really a lot of it comes down to that. I'm sure you've heard the anecdote of the class assignment that is to write down write down the most detailed instructions about making a peanut butter sandwich as you can, and the kid tries to get clever and be like, put the knife in the peanut butter jar, and then the teacher who's following along just shoves the handle of the knife directly into the jar. Like, you said put the knife in, you didn't say which direction. So it's all really just like breaking it down into as smaller chunks than you probably think you really need, but as small chunks as you can. It's to a variable so I can pass it. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, with your tech writing background, I don't see this being difficult to pick up. Completely honest. All right. So this will build itself, and it'll set the. Um, HUD. Yeah, I think about that story all the time while I'm working on this stuff. Especially because I'm in this case I'm both. I'm the kid writing the instructions and I'm the teacher pretending to be stupid, but not always pretending. So it's less fun than I'd want it to be. Okay, and then I will add that same input to the choice data, so I have it. A GM. Choice. Okay. And I will add this construct. All it really needs to do on set the HUD GM. HUD GM. Did I update this? Okay. Then I need a new one for an implicit hierarchy to all these various things. Yeah. So if you understand coding lingo, well enough. What I'm making here, anything beyond the red, this is basically a function. So I'm giving myself packets of instructions to run in order. The it's left to right, and it's the white pins are execution. So the overall breakdown of this, when and probably I hope I don't go into. So in here, I've set the default game mode, which is the game mode, the code that runs whenever the game is loaded, and this kind of governs the overall rules of the game and which um, settings that you're going to apply at the top level. So if we go into here, I can open this up. This is the BP Mech game mode. This is the one I created for this. So on begin play, which is the game starts, it loads this automatically. It sets the mouse cursor so that you can select things. It adds the HUD GM widget and sets it as a variable that I can manipulate later. And then it adds it to the viewport, which is just executing it through the renderer. And then I have this print string here just to make sure that I am doing it all correctly, but that's just injection and foolproofing. So this is the first thing that's loaded up, which is the HUD GM, which I've been doing all of my work in here. Again, each one of these has an event construct, so as soon as this is constructed, it'll run these things and then it'll stop. So it'll say the scene loader and then it'll play the animation. The scene loader is the function that I built that moves everything over from my hard-coded data table script into an array that I can mess with later. This array lives as a variable called the instruction set. It has all of my scene data loaded into it, and it's all manipulable in these specific functions. So it moves everything per column as its own entry, and every row is its own entry with these parameters, with the prerequisite, the goto label, the speaker, the line, the cinematic, set conditional, and goto data. It loads all of those because they're all separate entries. It loads them into an array, which is just a holder of multiple things, and each array entry is a row of the script. So I guess index 0 because arrays start at 0 rather than 1, which is not at all confusing. Uh, so yeah, index 0 of the array will have the row number of 1. It'll have nothing in the prerequisite, nothing in the goto label. It'll have companion as the speaker. It'll have this line. It'll have this cinematic. Nothing in the conditional. Nothing in the goto data. It has all of that sort of laid out as one entry of the array of the instruction. That is what I build essentially at the first thing. And then I set a custom variable that I'm calling current index so that I can control what index is being read out of this array. And then it plays the animation of fading in, and then it stops. It waits for instruction. So the next thing that happens is when I go into play, if I don't do anything, it doesn't do anything either. I click on Test Cinematic. That's a button that I've selected, and that's this button, on-clicked button 0. What that does is it creates the cutscene, which is the other thing that we've been doing. So this, if you think about everything, the idea is that everything will report back to this HUD GM. This is the game master. This has control over the overall flow of the game and the logic. The it'll create this cutscene as like in the background. Basically, it just says, give me one of those cutscene HUDs. It's not a direct thing. It's more of an instance. So if you understand classes and hierarchy, there's basically I'm saying give me a copy of that main thing that I can manipulate. And then I set this as like a variable that I can manipulate later. I haven't had to do it yet, so I keep saying that without actually showing you what I mean, but I'm going to need to at a certain point. Then I add it to the viewport. That's what brings it up on the screen, so you actually see the cutscene playing and the dialog box. I set the render opacity of this window since it's targeted to self, of this HUD GM, which currently holds this image. I just set the opacity of this to 0, and then I send the specific the blueprint interface call over to the actual. You can see that its target is the HUD cutscene that I made. Compiling scripts really just runs through and it does like a quick check to make sure that everything's going to work the way that you hopefully have set it up to be, or it'll work in a way that Unreal can actually show you. Sometimes it will break. You might have seen it break earlier when I was setting up the HUD-GM into this BPI function. What this is doing is this is packaging up this data that I've asked it to, and it's sending it to this target. So it's to this target, which is the HUD cutscene, that it's the instance of the HUD cutscene that's created. So it's sending the instruction set that I built in the scene loader, it's setting the current index that I have set as the global variable, and it's setting a reference to itself as the HUD-GM. And it's sending that over to the HUD cutscene. When this loads on construct, it sets the opacity of the dialog box, which is this entire canvas panel that lays over the sequence that's playing in the background. It sets all of that to 0 because the animation that I play later when it fades in sets it from 0 to 1 over a quarter of a second or half a second, whatever the length is. And then it sets, so I changed the name, it broke. It sets the HUD-GM variable in here as the HUD-GM from the actual HUD-GM that's a reference to itself. So it's saying, take what I am, attach it onto the scene data, and then push that over to here so that I can reference it directly later, which I'm going to when I go to push the other data. But what I really needed was to be able to put this to the other. This prints a string that says advancing. That's just so if nothing happens, I know that it's at least calling this data, because if the engine wasn't even getting through here, I wouldn't see this. So this just lets me know that if it's not doing what I want it to do, it's something after this point that's broken, which is great. That means it's entered here, and then I know the problem is in here somewhere. So, but when this is constructed, all this is doing is these two things. What I need it to do is send. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. When I've clicked this button, it creates the cutscene, it sends this information over, and then it pushes through here. So this is also acting as a command itself. So what it's doing, when it packages this over, it tosses it at anything that it thinks can catch it. In this case, I've set a target, but I can set multiple things as targets, so it'll send it to everything that has a listener that's looking for advanced scene data. This has an event for advanced scene data. That's the listener. This is saying, okay, I hear you. So what I'm going to do, as soon as I get this information, I'm going to pull the instruction out, and I'm going to, get the information out of it that I need to. In this case, I'm going to print a string that says it advancing, but then I'm going to check and see for the choice. If the speaker of the information that you've passed me is choice, and that's how I have it set up in the script, is that the speaker is choice if I'm adding a choice for the player to make. If it is doing that, then this is just a true or false, a boolean. And it'll say, if this is choice, then set our choice information. I'll come back to that. If it's not, then we're going to check and see if the length of the cinematic entry in this instruction set is longer than 5, which means it's not none, but it's not blank. So the create level if there is data there that it needs to manage, it will create a scene player out of it. It will autoplay that scene. That's the sequence. That's what I'm calling these camera moves. So anytime there is a camera motion that I want to be able to keep track of, I'm setting this as a sequence. That's sort of my cutscene shots. And then it will set the data. It'll set the text block of the overlay of the cutscene to show you what people are saying. If this isn't longer than 5, which means it's either none or blank, I'm not sure how it. I should probably have an answer for that at some point, but for now I'm not super worried about it. If it's not that, it's not going to worry about setting up a sequence player. It's not going to replay any sequences. It's not going to break anything. It's just going to go straight to, okay, we'll just print the next line, essentially. And it does this every time that the advanced scene data plays. When you click the left button, not sure why that broke, the left mouse button, I can also add spacebar, right, A, whatever inputs I want to put here. it will play the next index. This is another function that I built that basically says, okay, if the goto data is blank, then, and if goto data is blank, if that is true, just set the next index of the instruction set to the current 1 plus 1. If it is not blank, if there is data in here, check and see if there's a pipe. If there's a pipe, don't do anything. If there's a pipe in the goto data, that means that it's a choice. It shouldn't be validating this anyway, but if it is, then just stop. We're in the GM. So there's nothing hooked onto true. I don't want you to do anything if this is true. Just hold there and await further instructions. If it is false, which if this contains this, which is false, which means it does not have a pipe in it, that means it's a single entry. So now we can loop through the rest of the script and find the, and it's looping from the instruction set, which is our script. Loop through the whole script, look for the goto label that matches the goto data of this line, and set that to the next instruction index. So now the next place that you go from here will be the line that matches this information. This isn't hooked up, so this is always validating as true, which also might be why it's breaking. That sucks. Anyway, so this happens on a loop. So it does it for everything in the script, and then it just, once it finds it, it stops. If it doesn't find it, it goes to the next one, it goes to the next one, it goes to the next one. There's no information here. And since it's attached to a loop, it just loops in here, here, here. Okay, found it, stop. The break. Now I have the information that I need, so it's no longer validating this. So next index has been set, and it goes to, it sets that as the current index and pushes that to the advanced scene data. Advanced scene data pulls all of the data out of this index of the instruction set and moves it where it needs to go. So it's really just, I think I kind of explained it this way before, but like, Tony Stark didn't build every suit of armor that he made. You know, he built the one in the cave and he built the one in his garage, and then ever since then he's really just had Jarvis doing it. He's just inputting the data that he wants into it, but he's created the system that does it for him. He's got shit to do. He's got plays to boy or whatever. Boys to play? No, that makes it sound worse. Okay, anyway. That is the overall setting of this. If this is a choice, I know I said I'd come back to this, and I am going to now. It'll create the choice panel, which is just a window that holds this is where my choice entries go. There's no data in here because it all happens dynamically. It sets this as the choice. It goes to the, it adds it to the viewport, and then it pushes the choice data. And again, it's the instruction set, it's the current index, and it's the HUD GM. I've set this as its own DPI because it's, you'll see that most of these are kind of the same, especially these two. These are instruction, current index, and HUD GM. Instruction, current index, and HUD GM. I want to make sure that if I'm saying something out loud, I want to make sure that I'm directing it to the right person. So I could reuse this same function over and over again, but I want to make sure that the listeners are the correct people that I want to be listening. I don't want eavesdroppers in this case, because that means it's breaking. So what this does is when this is created here, so the HUD choice is created here and set and added to the viewport, all it's really doing at this point is saying, okay, I know who the HUD GM is, I know where to push my data later. I'm going to stop. Then what I'm doing is once I've built all this, then I send the command to this that does the next step. And it does it automatically, it does it all in a chain, but it's not overlapping, which is important. So now it says, okay, this is, I'm listening, I heard the choice data command, so now I'm breaking everything down and separating everything out in my into my separate areas. So like a mail sorter, it's going through and saying, all right, I have all of this data from the script that I need, which I can hide all the ones that are unconnected to make it a little cleaner. All I'm really worried about is the line and the go-to data right now. The line is what holds all of the choice options, and the go-to data is what holds all of the next steps for those choice options. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the go-to data, and I'm going to find all of the index arrays for everything in this, everything that's in the array of choices here, and I need the information for each one. So again, this is the same system as before. I'm going to go through, find the label that matches the go-to data, and assign it to the choice index array, which only exists here in this choice HUD. Once I find it, I stop, I go to the next one in this array, I do the same thing until I've made it all the way through this array of everything that is in the go-to data, and it's being split out by the pipe. That's why the pipe is important. And here in this sequence, it says do that, and then when you're done with that, go to the next one. This is another loop. It's not probably a little bit more performant for me to do nested loops in script, but I don't know C++, so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is instead just do what I know, which is blueprints. But now that it's figured out all of the choice indexes, it's indices, I guess, it's going to go to the next step, which is to run another loop that says, all right, for every entry in the choice text, go ahead and create a button. And this is the button is what I was doing earlier, which is gnarly. And then it's going to create one of those. It's going to access this button, and it's going to set the text to be whatever the text entry is from our line, or from our choices. And then it's going to associate it with a selected label. Actually, I can do this now. Ha! I can show you why I'm doing all of this variable setting. Okay. And now it's saying, okay, associate this index array, which will be the same index array as the choice. So it's just basically it's saying, here's the line and here's the choice. Tie them together and push them both to the option data, which is within the button. You can see that it targets from the button. And then add that child to the choice box, and the choice box is this. So for every button, it's going through and it's saying, okay, the text is being set to whatever the text is in the script, and that's great. Now what I need to do is make sure that whenever this button is pushed, it knows it's associating and it's pushing a command back all the way back up to the HUD GM that has the go-to in it, so I can jack it into here and then advance again. So this will be, oh boy, okay. This will be a new function called selected option, and it will just be an integer. This will be selected option. This is the holding variable. This is the variable that will hold the index that has been selected from the choice for the dialog flow to go to next based on the choice that you make in the script. Man, I'm so great at freaking explaining things. Okay. So this option data is being pushed. I'm not super asked about doing anything off of the execution pin here. I literally just need the data. I don't need the push to do anything. Because it just needs to, the button needs to spawn itself and sit there and wait for the player to click it. And this is what that interaction is. So here, what I'm going to do is from the HUD GM, I'm going to do a selected option message through the BPI. The execution pin came off of here, but I don't want that. I want this. Come on, bud. There we go. And then I want the selected label to come off of the thing. So this is the data that's pushed to the buttons is the each one of them spawns a button, and each button will have the selected label pushed to it, which will be the index. I gotta work on my naming. This is a big issue that I do have. And now, since this is going to the HUD GM, that's the target for this, I'm going to go back to the HUD GM and I'm going to say, okay, this button's going to yell something at you. I want you to listen for it. And when you hear it, I want you to know what to do with it. So when I implement this as an event, I'm saying, okay, here's the listener for this. And we'll move it over all across fucking creation to come back over here to where I have everything else. And it will say, okay, I want you to do an advanced scene data push to the HUD cutscene that currently exists. And I want you reference yourself again as HUD GM. But the selected option will be the one that comes from the button. And now, what should happen, and it's not going to, I'm missing a step. We get to here and we say, all right, here's the options. If I click continue, it does nothing. Why not? That was 20 straight minutes of talking. So I'm going to take a second to breathe and answer one of the several questions I'm sure that you have, because I'm sure that wasn't very good. This is the reason I didn't go into academia. That and I hate school. Okay. Button is clicked. I want to Fair enough. Let's see. Got some weird duplicating here. Right. So it does have it. How are you pushing? Oh, you're not. You're losing the HUD. Oh, okay. I don't want this here. I want this to be part of the main string. Because it's not getting this data when it constructs this. It's constructing before it gets to. Okay, it is working. Once it does this, I need it to fuck off. I need it to fuck off. So in option data, I also want to push choice. itself. Pile. Might have to doing? Why are you doing that? Some sure. Some sure. What are you doing? What I want to do is compiling. Let's go into the button compile. Do I need? Good deal. Okay. I need you to remove two things from parents. Well, no. Actually, I really only need you to. Not what I want. Now, when I click on this, it should fuck off. Okay. You know what? No, actually, tell me after the next. Tell me what the. This should tell me what the current index is for every file when I click through it. This is 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's 2. It's not. Why is it? I wish that would go away. Okay. So why is it not? Let's try this. Let's see if it's because it's not getting out of itself. Not getting out of its own way. I don't know anything about that. Alright. Yeah, to answer your question about the implicit hierarchy or versus ad hoc, it's a little bit of both. The implicit hierarchy is that what I'm gearing for here is to have everything report to this primary HUD GM blueprint. From here, all of this HUD GM will spawn all of the other blueprints essentially. So from here, everything reports back to this because this is where I want most of the calculation to happen. What's the next index? What's the outcome of this combat? You know, what are the narrative variables that are being dragged along? And then, uh, but even within those, a lot of this is like the uh, characters will be spawnable. So we'll have multiple ones that have all the same types of data attached to them. Things like that. Man, I haven't looked at my screen. I have no idea how long I was on break. Because I wasn't. Okay, now if I add... When I select a variable and then I add an instruction to it, we'll break out of this. No, it sticks on. And it's about figuring out the order of operations enough to figure out what's wrong here. Why is it getting stuck on this? Evan. $12, $15. Oh, I see what it's doing. I don't want the loops is broke. Oh my god, Visual Studio. Fuck off, man. Very bossy today. Okay. Things like, hey, learn how to script. Hey, come in here and do your C++, buddy. I gotta get you to learn how to script. Man, that is pushy. Okay. Let's see. Why? Okay, so what are you doing here? You're pulling the instruction set. Looking for the go-to data. So you're going through each entry of the script and you're saying, okay, does the label match am I doing wrong here? If the label matches, it should be adding the... It's not. It's adding the wrong label. It's adding the one with the data. It's adding 7, 12, and 16. But it should be adding 8, 13, 17, and 22. Take the current instruction, grab current index. Okay, so this is where the choice is. Pull it apart. Get the go-to data, which is this column. Go to the choice, grab these, break these down. Go through the entire script, and whichever and then it's one off. Oh, yeah, I did this to myself. Bridge. Oh, and then I typed the wrong word too. I just got so distracted by how mad I am at myself. Okay, branch. Because it was missing one of the, and I didn't test for it. It doesn't matter. There's no performant way to test for it. Okay. What I think I need to do is, when this comes out of here, I need to set the current index, because it's not actually doing that. See, we're figuring this out. We're figuring this out. So currently this blueprint has no idea what it's saying this selected option is. I'm setting it here. Okay. So I'm saying these are branching dialogue points. I think it's cool that you clicked on the part of the description and talked about these being dialogue points. This might be a little hard to track, and then it'll go through, and then it'll bring me back to here, and I can do it again. I can go to this one. Go to this one. Ha ha ha! Yeah! I did this on purpose. This is purposeful. Okay. Now what I'm noticing is that it's no longer activate. Oh, because I didn't add it in here. All right, let's see. Let's set different sequences for this. So we'll set test sequence 1. Sequence 1 will restart, or I'll just go back to the original. Back to 1. Original. That's so cool. Okay. What this is doing is it has an extra... It's not catching that there's nothing to validate until it's already validated it. And then it's like, wait, this is broken now. That's great. Okay. I'm happy with where this is. I sorted this out. So what were all the issues that I had? So I hadn't finished out the buttons. It was trying to validate some information that was no longer current. And also it was not reporting back to this what you actually selected. Those are the primary issues. And in this case, okay, since I've set HUD cutscene as its own thing, I don't have to, I can just pull this here. This is why I've been so insistent on setting these as variables. I can ideally reference them later without needing to draw lines all over. Make it a little bit cleaner, but in this case, I think it's giving me a good idea of what information is being, not being too messy. Going through and cleaning things up. Case I want to expose the static so I can pull this up here. I can also go. All right. I've got the basics listed out. I feel okay with this. I think there will come a time later when we're going to need to look back at the script and start to add more details. Especially when it comes to like variable tracking and things like that. I'm not 100% sure how narrative variables are going to probably, I think, gate access in the prerequisites to entire chunks of data rather than specific like information inside the line. I'd rather not touch that as much as I can. Yeah, I think that's the best. I think that's the best way to go about it. So I don't have any kind of script governing how these streams go. I'm trailing off into nothing. But that's fine. Okay. I think in this case I'm just gonna make the choice box like to the screen or 900. 1200. Don't worry about it. Oh, you're just not bothering, are you? Not asked at all. Size box. Make it. This to 1000 size to content, so it doesn't matter. Let's just make it invisible. So because okay. If the HUD cutscene is don't do anything. Not cutscene, you dingus. Choice. Which isn't being reported back. Okay. I feel incredibly unintelligent right now. Alright, I'm gonna think through this for a few minutes, take our break, and then I'll come back and see if I can sort this out. Data takes choice into account. What I could do, have it push back up to the creating a new function is choice. Had it push this up to the GM. This, because I know. Implement. Okay. Since this is actually it's being reported, so I selected option. Cutscene for you. Choice panel for you. And then carries on. click anywhere else. Okay, make choice not hit testable. It already is. If doesn't do anything if the HUD choice is something to do. Uh, okay, I'm gonna go on break. I'm overthinking this, so let's chill for a minute and come back to this fresh. Clicking on the screen before I do this advances it. Add another chain to the... Another link to the chain here. Branch. Another false. Let's get opacity. If the opacity equals 1, don't do anything. Click this. Okay, great. Now, not remove the choice. Man. Okay, so what are you saying? You're saying access none trying to read HUD GM. I don't even know what that means. Okay, we're just gonna ignore it. Okay, so it is sending the choice data. It's doing everything it's supposed to. It's not itself parent, which it's supposed to be doing up here. This is right? A choice. Do what we always do and add a print. Say option selected. Compile it. And since I'm all okay, I know what that issue is now. This button doesn't go away; it just hides itself. To click it, and we're going to click somewhere else. If I click in that same spot, it'll double up all this. Okay, whatever. Descriptions, branching dialog points, and then if I click it, option selected, but it's not removing, and I can still click it. If I go through, it'll create another one. Why is it not removing HUD? Let's see. Here, let's set this to... It's always been that, so deal is. That cutscene, stop shooting yourself in the foot, bud. That to the viewport. Okay, so it is exactly the same variable. Always has been. Okay. Not. Are you receiving this? Choice. Same variable, nothing changed, but if I go in and refresh all my nodes, break anything. Let me remove the choice option from the option data. I wonder if that's unsetting something. Button, I don't have to care about that. Just have to care about this. Okay. And pushing that up to, see. It was just because it was conflicting. It is getting the choice though, so let's choice. Set that HUD. Add HUD choice to. Not sending the choice. Connect that? Okay, so then option is selected. I'm so confused. HUD choice, get HUD choice from parent. And advance the scene data through cutscene. Okay. Is there any reason that it wouldn't make it through? It is triggering to at least here. Is making it through the parent? Access none trying to read a choice. Access none trying to read as HUD-G. Should be getting itself. Oh boy, okay. I think I'm gonna go for the end of my timer for today and call it and go a little time though. Figure this out. If I can't figure this out in the next 12 and a half minutes, 12 minutes and 15 seconds, I'll call it for the day. Sure I'm not doubling up somewhere. Choice box should be gone. Okay. Why would it not remove what it's supposed to remove? Let's see. I click a button, it should give me the GM HUD name, and it should give me the choice name. Is it creating two choice boxes somehow? Cutscene, did I remove the... Removed everything from here. Let's see. Not doing anything twice, right? One for the BPI, it has one for the HUD. And it has one for the cutscene handler. is only happening in these two places. This is creating the cutscene handler because I clicked on the button. This is creating the widget. This is creating the choice because I clicked on, or because it recognized the cutscene handler recognized this as a choice. Okay. This is doing is creating choice data. It is sending the choice data. Where are you doing that? It's going through creating a choice button, it's adding it to the list here, creating any. Man, this is interesting. I am directly calling. Remove this. Remove from parent. Tell me if this widget is visible. I've clicked the option, it should remove it from the parent, and it should say is visible. If it says true, that means there's multiple. It says and it says false. When I click on it the first time, it says true. So is it recreating itself? If I come here and I click on the first option, it'll say, I think it's cool. You clicked on that part. Let's see. I think it's cool that you... It's cool that you clicked on the part, talked about being... Okay. And then I can click through the rest of it, but if I click on this, now it says false. It says this thing that I'm clicking on is no longer visible. I'm so confused. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna delete this variable. I'm gonna recreate it. I'm gonna recreate it over here where I say promote to variable. I call it HUD choice. I wonder if it was variable carried over. Wasn't referencing. Say HUD choice, remove parent, and go up here and I say if it is visible, tell it to fuck off. Okay. value. Sliding up. That's not what I wanted. Okay, now it's just not loading at all. Oh boy. Why would I do this? Why would I ever want to do this? Why would I want to make games? Dumb. Okay. Choice. That. Okay. Not pushing the choice data to the HUD choice panel. Okay. My issue right now is that when I get to here and I click this option, I need to change one thing real quick. I need this button to not do anything. The opacity of this screen is anything other than 0. It's killing me. Okay. Otherwise, don't do anything. Okay. This screen should be going away now. Because it's going to... Man. What is happening? It should be removing this from parent. That's right here. And then it will tell me if it's visible or not. Alright, I'm just gonna make a note of this. And I'm gonna call it for today. I think I've maxed out my ability to actually problem solve at this point. And I'm sure I'll come at it next time and I'll be like, "Aw, man, that was such an easy fix. Boy, am I silly." But I'll probably be with more expletives and it'll probably be a lot more mean to myself about it. Okay. Today was mostly finishing out the well, attempting to finish out this dialogue system a little bit more. I've fleshed out the script. I've done a little bit more in the way of branch corralling, and I've rapidly expanded the BPI functions. This is going to be massive by the end of this. I just know it, but it'll be fine. But the choices are now populating and working in the flow of the world. The only thing that's an issue now is that the hot damn choice box not going away. So we'll consider what all that means, but in the future, I guess. But for now, I feel like we're in a good spot overall. I'm going to put us on a break, and that'll be the last 5 minutes. Talk about things, and then we'll dip out for the day. So what I need to focus on now is finding ways to attach these narratives to overworld geometry. So I want to have a system that basically, when a dialogue is available to be selected, pops up here and gives me something to click on. I think the way that we're going to set this up is going to be pretty similar to Myst. I think when the game launches, we'll launch into a sequence that'll be like a top-down view of things. And then when you click on something that's ready to view, it spawns the sequence, moves you into space, and then begins its camera moves, cycles through the dialogue. I know Myst doesn't really have much in the way of dialogue, but you know what I'm saying. And if we can get that, then that means that the next step will be to create the overworld level, and that will be something that is loaded at load with the overworld camera sequence, I guess. Consider this sort of top-down view to be something similar to like Citizen Sleeper, where you have a view of the sort of like the Mech city from pretty far above, and the options that are available to you will be icons that you can click on that will put you into more cinematic looking cutscenes rather than just a visual novel view of a single character with a ton of words. So that's definitely the touchstone as far as overworld interaction goes. That will be what we'll focus on next time. Yeah, I think so. Getting the dialogues to launch on icon interaction, which means having an icon to click on that can be attached to static meshes to just, pop up and say, hey, this is a now available thing to do, and it can have different iconography, I guess, for lack of a better word, to let you know who is the conversation with, what's it about, whatever. You'll be able to select it like that. Selecting that will launch you into the cinematic dialogue. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. Yeah, great. Okay, I think we're in a pretty good spot for the day. Next stream will probably be next week. Yeah, I think that's really it. If there's... Honestly, yeah, no, for real. If this is something that you're interested in learning about, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I know that like a lot of the sort of I'm glossing over a lot of the basics. But yeah, I think I'm not exactly the most effective teacher. This is definitely meant to be more of a let's learn this together. But I know that the knowledge base is a little bit different. Also, not everybody has my brain. So, yeah, I think I'm always open to take questions. And yeah, we got a minute left. I'm just gonna go ahead and call it. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon.